Ethan thought the week before his wedding would be peaceful, just final touches and excitement. Brooke, his fiancée, was in Las Vegas for her bachelorette trip, sending cute texts and selfies that made everything feel secure. But one evening, as Ethan casually opened Instagram, his entire world tilted. There on his feed were fresh photos of Brooke kissing her ex, Ryan, right in the middle of a crowded nightclub. No context. No explanation. Just undeniable proof splashed across the internet for everyone to see. His hands went cold as he stared, trying to make sense of what he was seeing, but the images only grew clearer the longer he looked. In a single, brutal moment, every plan, every promise, every future he thought they shared began to crack. And Ethan knew that whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same. Ethan didn't move for almost a full minute after seeing the photos. He just stood there in the dim light of his apartment, staring at the screen as if the images might suddenly change into something else, something less devastating. But they didn't. They stayed exactly the same. Brooke in a glittery dress, Ryan's hands on her waist, their mouths pressed together like no one else in the world existed. A fresh post. A nightclub tagged. Time-stamped only hours earlier. The realization hit him like a punch to the chest, hollowing out everything inside him. He felt the rush of heat rise up his neck, but it wasn't anger yet. It was disbelief. The kind of disbelief that makes your breath stutter and your heart race because you're watching your life unravel in real time. Brooke's calls came in waves, first a few, then dozens, then so many that Ethan's phone vibrated nonstop on the counter like it was desperate to crawl away. He let every single one ring out. He didn't have the energy or the patience to hear whatever explanation she was scrambling to invent. But eventually the apartment went silent, and silence, he realized, meant something even worse. It meant she was on her way. 30 minutes later, the front door burst open. Brooke stumbled in, eyes wide, hair messy from travel, still wearing the glittery dress from Vegas. "Ethan, listen, it's not what you think," she blurted before the door had fully closed. He didn't move from where he was standing in the kitchen. He didn't even look surprised. "Really?" he asked quietly. "What do I think it is?" She launched into the first version of her story. "It was an old photo. Someone dug it up to hurt me. I didn't post it, I swear." Her voice cracked in all the places she wanted it to sound sincere. Ethan just watched her. Then he pulled his phone from the counter, tapped the screen, and held it up. The nightclub tag. The timestamp. The metadata. All unmistakably new. Brooke's face lost color. But she didn't stop. She pivoted. "It's edited. Someone edited it. Ryan's crazy, you know he is. He must have done this to mess with me, or with us." Ethan zoomed in on the bracelet. The same bracelet she had begged him to buy, saying it would match the Vegas dress perfectly. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. She started crying. Soft at first. Then loud, messy sobs that echoed through the apartment like a performance she had rehearsed. She reached for him, but he stepped back. That tiny movement broke something in her expression. The tears abruptly stopped, replaced by anger sharp enough to cut the air. "So what?" she snapped. "You're just going to believe everything you see online." Ethan let out a humorless breath. "I'm believing the fact that you're wearing the same dress," he said. "And the same nails, and the same bracelet, and the same face post-surgery." Brooke flinched as if the truth physically hurt. Then she exploded. She accused him of overreacting. Then of invading her privacy. Then of ruining the wedding on purpose, because he never really wanted to get married anyway. Her desperation tangled with hostility until her words no longer made sense. Ethan didn't argue. He just watched the person he once loved burn every last bridge between them. When her fury burned out, she switched to bargaining. "We can fix this," she whispered. "No one has to know. Just call the guests back. We can say it was a misunderstanding." Ethan shook his head. Brooke's eyes hardened again. "Fine," she spat. "But you're paying half the cancellation fees. This wedding cost money, Ethan. Real money." That was the final crack. Not the cheating. Not the lies. But the shameless demand that followed it all, as if the destruction she'd caused was just an inconvenience on a bill. Ethan looked at her one last time, feeling nothing but a tired, aching emptiness. "No," he said. And the sound of that single word ended everything more completely than the canceled wedding ever could. Brooke didn't leave quietly. She stormed out of the apartment with the kind of rage that comes from being caught with no way out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. Ethan thought that would be the end of it for the night, but chaos had only just begun. The first sign came an hour later, when he stepped outside to clear his head. His car, his perfectly maintained, meticulously cared-for car, was keyed from headlight to taillight. Deep, angry scratches carved in jagged lines, like someone had dragged the metal until their hand got tired. He didn't need to guess who did it. He just stared at the damage, breathing slowly, letting the anger settle into something colder and more controlled. By morning, round 2 had begun. His inbox held an email from Brooke's parents, a long, guilt-soaked message demanding that Ethan pay half the wedding expenses because these things happen, and both sides share responsibility when an event is canceled. Ethan read it once, blinked, and deleted it. He wasn't going to finance the aftermath of her betrayal. An hour after that, he received something even more absurd. A formal letter, delivered by email and certified mail, from a family friend who happened to be a golf course lawyer. The message threatened legal action if Ethan refused to compensate the family for emotional damages, embarrassment, and financial loss due to his impulsive decision. Ethan almost laughed. The lawyer clearly hadn't seen the photos. But the public fallout was already escalating. Brooke had moved the drama to TikTok. In a tearful video filmed with dramatic lighting, she claimed Ethan was controlling, unstable, verbally abusive, and had sabotaged the wedding out of jealousy. Within hours, her followers flooded the comments with sympathy and anger. She played the victim flawlessly, crying into the camera as if the world had wronged her. But the internet is unpredictable, and investigators with too much free time are relentless. People began analyzing the nightclub, photos frame by frame. They traced the DJ's setlist from that night. They compared Brooke's nails with earlier selfies. They matched the glitter on her dress to photos she posted that same morning. And then came the torpedo. Metadata from the pictures proved they were taken less than 10 hours before Ethan found them. Not old. Not edited. Brand new. Just when it seemed like Brooke's story might completely collapse, Ryan entered the stage, voluntarily. He uploaded more photos, more angles, and even screenshots of his own chat with Brooke from that night. The timestamp texts were damning. Her excited messages. Her plans to meet him. Her comments about missing what we had. Everything Brooke had tried to deny was laid bare. Brooke responded with another video, this time raging instead of crying, claiming Ryan was manipulating her and that Ethan's friends were out to destroy her reputation. But the damage was irreversible. The narrative that she had desperately tried to spin had already split open. Her own actions leaked out into the public like a flood she couldn't control. While the internet tore itself apart dissecting the drama, Ethan stayed quiet. He didn't post. He didn't reply. He didn't defend himself. He simply gathered every piece of evidence, screenshots, timestamps, photos of the vandalized car, and stored them neatly in a folder titled for legal use. Because he knew something Brooke hadn't realized yet. When someone lies loudly, the truth doesn't need to scream. It just waits. And sooner or later, it destroys everything on its own. Brooke's meltdown didn't slow down. If anything, it transformed into something bigger and far more public. After the TikTok accusations failed to gain the sympathy she expected, she shifted her attention to an entirely new target: the wedding vendors. It started with a dramatic post claiming that the florist, the venue manager, and even the catering company had conspired with Ethan to sabotage her wedding. She insisted they had canceled services without her approval, leaked information to Ethan, and emotionally manipulated her during the planning process. She painted herself as the bride who had been betrayed not just by her fiancé, but by an entire industry. Within hours, she recorded a series of rant-filled videos calling out specific vendors by name. She showed contracts she had only half read, screenshot emails she pulled out of context, and made vague, baseless accusations about harassment and discrimination. Her tone oscillated wildly. One moment she was crying, the next she was furious, and then she'd swing back to calm like she was auditioning for a reality show. The internet initially entertained it. People love drama, and Brooke was serving plenty. But the vendors weren't about to let their reputations be destroyed by a cheating bride with a rapidly unraveling story. The first response came from the wedding planner, a calm, articulate woman who posted an email thread showing that Brooke had been late on payments, frequently changed plans, and often ignored messages for weeks. She politely corrected every lie Brooke had told. Screenshots followed. Receipts followed. Invoices with timestamps followed. Brooke's entire narrative buckled under the weight of her own digital paper trail. Then the venue chimed in. They posted security footage of Brooke's walkthroughs, showing her yelling at staff, insulting interns, and demanding free upgrades that weren't part of her contract. They explained that the cancellation had been processed only after Ethan announced the wedding was off, and that Brooke had been fully aware of the terms she signed. By midday, the florist joined in. They posted a polite but firm message explaining that they had no involvement in the couple's breakup and that Brooke's claims were entirely false and harmful. They even included screenshots of her last-minute demands for rare flowers that were out of season and unavailable. It was clear she had treated everyone terribly long before the cheating scandal surfaced. The bridal makeup artist released a statement next. "Professional boundaries exist for a reason," she wrote. "We do not tolerate verbal abuse." Brooke had screamed at her for not contouring her nose thin enough, despite having had a recent surgery that made it impossible to match her old look. One by one, vendors across the wedding industry began sharing their experiences. Some anonymous, some public. Stories of Brooke showing up late, yelling at assistants, refusing to pay deposits, demanding free services, and threatening to ruin their businesses if they didn't comply. By evening, Brooke had unintentionally created the worst possible outcome for herself. She had united an entire community against her. Wedding vendors everywhere shared her videos as an example of what not to do. Brides in planning groups warned others about her. Some vendors added her name to their internal, "Do not work with" lists. She was blacklisted in an industry built on reputation and word of mouth. Meanwhile, Ethan watched the chaos unfold from a distance. He didn't interact, didn't comment, didn't fuel the fire. He simply observed how Brooke, in trying to blame everyone around her, had torched every bridge left standing. And for the first time since the wedding collapsed, he realized something quietly satisfying. He didn't have to expose her. She was doing a flawless job of destroying her own reputation without his help. Brooke's unraveling didn't level out after the vendor disaster. It escalated into something more unhinged, something sharper, something desperate enough to make Ethan realize she wasn't just embarrassed, she was spiraling out of control. The first sign came when he received an email from a real attorney, not the golf course friend pretending to be one. It was a formal demand letter claiming that Ethan owed Brooke $50,000 for emotional distress, reputational harm, and financial damages associated with the wedding cancellation. The tone was cold and professional, but the claims were absurd. Ethan read it twice, just to make sure he wasn't missing some hidden punchline. He was. Brooke was genuinely trying to shake him down for money. He didn't panic. He simply forwarded the lawyer everything he had. Photos of the vandalized car, screenshots of her TikToks, timestamps of her cheating, and her own texts begging him to just call the wedding back on. His attorney wrote a clean, surgical response, citing destruction of property, defamation, harassment, and the mountain of contradicting evidence Brooke had publicly posted against herself. They made it clear that if she continued, Ethan would pursue charges. The demand letter evaporated. But Brooke didn't. She switched tactics. She started calling Ethan's workplace, first anonymously, then not. She claimed he was mentally unstable, emotionally abusive, and a danger to women. HR flagged the reports, but Ethan had already submitted proof of the situation before Brooke even called. The company dismissed her claims immediately. When that didn't work, she called the gym he went to. She told them he had harassed her, stalked her, and threatened violence. The manager recognized Ethan's name, pulled up the situation online, and blocked Brooke's number. Her behavior grew more erratic. One afternoon, Ethan walked out of work to find Brooke standing by his car, packing, crying, yelling into her phone like she was performing for an invisible audience. She approached him with a wild mixture of anger and affection, insisting they talk things out, then accusing him of ruining her life, then begging him to reconsider canceling the wedding. He quietly told her to leave. She threatened to call the police. So he pulled out his phone and said, "Okay, let's call them together." She left. But the strangest twist came when Brooke attempted something almost surreal. She tried to rebook the canceled wedding, but not with Ethan. With Ryan. She messaged every vendor, asking to transfer the event to a new groom. She acted as if swapping fiancés was as simple as editing a name on a document. Most vendors didn't respond. The ones who did rejected her immediately, some politely, some bluntly, all weary from the chaos she had caused. Brooke went ballistic again. She accused the entire wedding industry of discrimination, favoritism, and colluding against her happiness. She made videos at 3 a.m., ranting about conspiracies and toxic exes and fake friends, each one more chaotic than the last. Her messages to Ethan escalated into paragraphs of emotional whiplash, apologies followed by threats, longing followed by insults, pleading followed by rage. Ethan stopped reading them. He saved everything for legal protection and turned off message previews entirely. But underneath the madness, a quieter realization settled into Ethan's mind. Brooke wasn't just lashing out. She was losing control of the narrative, losing the audience, losing the ability to manipulate the world the way she used to. And the harder she tried to reclaim that control, the faster everything around her fell apart. Brooke's breakdown reached a level Ethan hadn't even imagined possible. Her accusations had failed, her lies had collapsed, and every attempt to regain control had only pushed her further into chaos. But the truth, real undeniable truth, hadn't surfaced yet. And when it did, it detonated everything left of her reputation. It started when Ryan posted a video of his own. Not a rant. Not an attack. Just him sitting calmly in his apartment, explaining his side because he was tired of being dragged into a mess he didn't create. He admitted he and Brooke had met up in Vegas. He admitted the photos were real. He admitted the messages were real. But then he added something that froze everyone watching. He said he hadn't cheated on anyone. Because he hadn't been single. He was engaged. His fiancée, a woman named Lila, had known everything Brooke was doing. And the part that blew the story open was his explanation. Lila had actually encouraged him to see Brooke that night, not out of trust, but out of morbid curiosity. She wanted to see what Brooke would do, because Brooke had been messaging Ryan for weeks, flirting, pushing boundaries, trying to pull him back into her orbit. Lila thought Ryan's meeting would end the conversation for good. Instead, it gave Brooke exactly the disaster she was hungry for. Ryan explained that Brooke had begged him for pictures after they kissed. She wanted angles. She wanted lighting. She wanted the perfect shot. He hadn't known she would post them, but he wasn't surprised. He described her as someone drawn to chaos, someone who thrived on drama, someone who treated attention, good or bad, like oxygen. The video went viral within hours. People stitched it, reacted to it, analyzed every word. Brooke became a meme overnight, the bride who cheated, lied, blamed everyone, and then got exposed by the man she cheated with. Brooke didn't handle it gracefully. Not even close. She unleashed 20 Instagram stories in a row, each more furious than the one before. She yelled at Ryan. She accused Lila of manipulating him. She cursed Ethan, her parents, the vendors, the internet, and even random commenters who had never spoken to her. She screamed into the camera, mascara streaking, voice cracking, claiming she was the real victim while every piece of evidence said otherwise. Her family tried to intervene. Her mother begged her to stop posting. Her father asked her to take a break from social media. Relatives messaged Ethan apologizing privately, saying they had no idea she was this far gone. Vendors who had stayed silent up to this point finally posted their own statements. Some simply clarified timelines. Some debunked her claims. Some explained they would not work with her again under any circumstances. The final blow was a large wedding association, quietly adding her name to a do-not book list. Meanwhile, Ethan stepped out of the storm. He blocked her number. He muted every tag. He moved apartments. And he started quietly seeing someone new, a woman who knew about the drama but didn't define him by it. Brooke, on the other hand, found herself alone. Her friends pulled back. Her reputation was scorched. Every attempt to reclaim the narrative only made the fire burn hotter. And in the ashes of the chaos she created, one truth stood untouched. Ethan didn't destroy her. Ryan didn't destroy her. The vendors didn't destroy her. Brooke destroyed herself, one lie at a time. In the months that followed, the noise around the scandal slowly faded. People moved on, new dramas replaced the old, and the internet found fresh chaos to obsess over. But for the few who lived through it directly, the impact lingered long after the comments stopped. Ethan rebuilt quietly. He focused on work, on friendships, on finding a life that wasn't shaped by someone else's instability. He no longer felt the need to explain himself, because the truth had spoken louder than he ever could. Peace, for the first time in a long time, felt possible. Brooke's world looked different. She kept posting, kept insisting she'd been wronged, but fewer people listened. Brands avoided her, collaborations dried up, and invitations stopped coming. The spotlight she chased, so desperately, had collapsed into a shadow she could not outrun. Ryan and Lila moved on with their lives, quietly and without spectacle. They didn't need attention, and they certainly didn't want to reopen the wound. And ultimately, the story settled into a simple lesson. Truth doesn't need defending. Lies eventually expose themselves. And sometimes the most powerful closure comes not from vindication, but from finally letting go.